want to see
Tom
it?
Zabrowski and Chris Mecca.
Oh, and then here's the agenda, how you see it?
No, I just came.
Just briefly before we get started, anybody who hasn't been in here before, that camera's rolling as of 6 o'clock sharp, and it'll roll until we're all done at the end of the night. It picks up even the slightest whispers in the crowd. Fair warning.
And now I see the chair over there.
All right, let's call this meeting or joint public hearing to order. Start out with a roll call quick. Trustee Howdy Shell.
Present.
Commissioner Kennedy. Trustee Long.
Here.
Commissioner Bennett.
Here.
Connor Sensky.
Here.
President Isaac here. Clerk Ford.
Here.
Trustee Goodman.
Here.
Trustee Monzel.
Here.
Trustee Khan is absent. Trustee Lewandowski.
Here.
And Commissioner Peterson.
Here.
We will move along to the public hearing. We are here to receive public comments pertaining to the conditional use grant request of property owner / applicant Extreme Exteriors in care of Jamie Peterson for temporary use of, for example, 9 months or less, and non-structural alterations to their vacant 5-acre site located immediately east of and adjacent to South 86 West 22880 Edgewood Avenue. Proposed use characteristics include, for instance, outdoor parking, storage, moving around of trailers and pallets, storage of pallets of pavers and wall materials, bulk topsoil and gravel storage, wood chip screening berm, and occasional outdoor burning. Proposed days/hours for periodic use activity at the site would be 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday. This property is Zone B2 Local Service Center District. Anybody wishing to make public comments, please stand, state your name and address, and make sure you're putting them in.
Hi, I'm Judith Duramo. I live on Cherry Street. That's 2 houses away from the proposed situation. My concern was, and he did answer some of my questions about the outside burning. I don't want to, have any noxious fumes, burning tires and having all this black smoke. I'm concerned with the dirt, with the trucks bring in, and it's flying all over. And what do we do, or what recourse do we have if what they promise they're going to do, they don't do? Does anybody monitor the situation? I mean, everyone promises everything, but when it comes right down to it, I mean, when I was on the village board, they didn't abide by what they said they were going to do. So what recourse would we have if things aren't the way they promised to do? If they start at 6 in the morning, you hear a beep, 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 and, all that kind of stuff. And like I said, burning, having obnoxious fumes, and who monitors all this if they adhere by their requests?
You can if you want to. It's a public hearing. We're here to hear your concerns.
So I don't get any answers.
Well,
I just can say what
we can address them once we move along with the agenda items. Mary can answer briefly right now if you wish.
Sure. Just a general answer is that what would be approved, if there were a temporary use approved tonight, it would include the detailed site plan. It would include the specific hours of operation, the details about what can be stored and where and how it's got to be screened. And that becomes the term of approval. And anything different than operating hours that are different than that approval, burning when it's not permitted, anything like that is enforceable as a matter of zoning enforcement.
Okay, so then who would I complain to if I'm going to complain about any of that?
I think you would complain to the village clerk, who
Just
would
clerk.
contact either the inspector or the planner, and somebody would follow up and investigate and correspond if necessary with the property owner.
Okay, thank you.
Do you want all of us to say who we are? I mean, I'm just here to listen. I'm Joan Lake.
Oh,
I'm just Joan Lake. I live on the corner of Edgewood and Durand, and I'm just here to find out what's going on. Since I didn't get a notice, and I was surprised I didn't get a notice because 40 or 50 years ago, when the dump was having issues, you know, we were contacted. So I don't know what Judy, I don't know if you were contacted or how you found out about it, you know, because what
I
I
was
thought that
contacted.
something would have been sent out, you know, for people who are close to it. So that's why I come and see what's going on.
A mailing was done to everybody within 300 feet of the subject property.
Yeah, probably about 600. But it's interesting because, like I said, 40 years ago, we were contacted when they were working on the dump and they were making some changes. We were within whatever the DNR's specification was. We were in, you know, within that.
Sure, sure.
do we have any written correspondence? Any more public comments? Second call for public comments. Third and final call for public comments. If there are no further public comments, I'll entertain a motion to close this public hearing. From both the planning commission side and the village board.
I'll make a motion to close public hearing for planning
Board?
I'll make the motion for board.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Public hearing is closed. The agenda along, I'm going to skip over consideration and approval of minutes. Skip over public comments for right now, move along to number 5, old business. Review, discussion, and possible action / recommendation to the village board on the conditional use request of applicant / property owner James Peterson doing business as Extreme Exteriors Incorporated for temporary use of and at non-structural alterations to the vacant 5-acre site located immediately east of and adjacent to South 86 West 22880 Edgewood Avenue. Proposed characteristics include, for instance, outdoor parking / storage / moving around of trailers and pallets, storage of pallets of pavers and wall materials, bulk topsoil and gravel storage, wood chip screening berm, and occasional outdoor burning. Proposed days / hours for this periodic use activity at this site would be 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday. This property is Zone B2 Local Service Center District. Anything you want?
So this is a 5-acre site that's essentially vacant at this time, and the temporary use that's being requested was elevated to a conditional use grant request so that a public hearing would be held and feedback and input, questions could be asked about the characteristics of the use, mostly because there was a little bit of concern that there would be potential for obviously smoke to occur as a part of the brush burning and so on that might be a part of the use on a limited basis. Also concern about just the physical appearance of requisite equipment being stored outdoors on the property. Specifically with respect to the outdoor storage, the applicant indicates up to 4 equipment trailers. Then there would be pallets of pavers and wall block and stones. There would be a dozer and a mini excavator. So I don't know if that means like a full-blown bulldozer or if that means a small dozer and a small excavator. And a stockpile of topsoil that's being taken off of the second phase of the Lake Park storage condos right now. That would be then retrieved and replaced to the condo site once the construction is substantially completed. They would propose to connect a drive, just a basic gravel drive coming off of what's called Peterson Way, the private street that now serves the condominiums entering off of Edgewood Avenue. You can see by the site plan that's in the planning commissioner's packets that the principal storage area would be near the south end of the site, kind of tucked into some existing vegetation that's there now. And then he would propose to establish a wood chip berm that kind of comes up along the east and the west side of that storage area. The stockpiles and equipment would probably be further north on the site and somewhere closer to the drive, the gravel drive they're proposing to install here for this use. It indicates on the application that there would be no chemicals or fuel stored outdoors on the site. There would be no structures added, not temporary structures, not permanent structures added to the site. The duration of the requested use is 9 months, and it's indicated here specifically ending in January of 23. So that's no longer 9 months. So we want to make sure and clarify that point when you get down to the part about deciding. And if you're inclined to make an action toward approval, you want to make sure and itemize these specific details. The applicant is here. I think he could probably fill in the blanks a little bit on more about the details of how often they might burn, if they're going to burn, and what the contents of that burn would be. Other than that, I think it's pretty straightforward, the explanation about what's being requested here. And I'll turn it over to the commission for review, discussion, questions. if I or the applicant can help.
Did the planning commission vote on this and give us a recommendation?
That's what we're here to do tonight. Got planning commissions.
Who you are, the planning commissioner, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I'm sorry.
Currently burning whatever you're gonna burn on the other site, on your existing site now, right? Just construction debris, cardboard.
No, not even that, just brush. And again, we probably won't ever burn down there, I just put it in there as an option.
I have to ask the question. Mr. Schobert came back on June 15th with a reiteration of basically what he had stated before and his concerns. Warren, you got that, I know that the village clerk did. I don't see that that was added into our packets for information, but the attorney's still against this. You want me to read it out for public record, or do you want to? Because it wasn't in the packet, so I don't know why it wasn't added in, but Mr. Schobert's recommendation stays the same as what it did before. And this came through from the email from Mr. Peterson to the DNR, and the DNR back to Mr. Peterson, and then Mr. Peterson to the village, and then the village, Warren, you had reached, basically, it did an email to Mr. Schober, and Mr. Schober came back with the same opinion that until we can get an environmental engineer, an expert into the matter, he's still against the recommendation to move forward. So I again state the same thing that we were last time. If we vote on this, we're looking to go against the village attorney. I had no part of this conversation. I was just attached to the email. I have not responded back to it.
Well, to be clear, every time that he responds, he's not even talking about the right property. He doesn't even know what he's talking about.
Well, and I know that whenever we left it last time, that you guys were going to talk with Mr. Schober direct to see if we could work out some sort of a workaround, some sort of an agreement. Did you guys go through with that?
I never said, you guys said that you were gonna talk to him. We never reached out to him.
Okay, well, Mr. Schober's email states where he's at on it. Do you want me to read that out for you, Warren?
Yeah, I can't find the email here.
I don't have it either.
Yeah. This came out from T. Michael Schober to Warren, Wilhine, Naomi Roush, myself, John Schober, and the village clerk. I don't see that it was sent to you, Mary. I don't know exactly why. You want me to go ahead and read it out so everybody can hear it, or do we need to make a motion to table this until everyone can have this and digest it? Because it hasn't been.
Was it in the packet that
It
could
was
even
not.
over this week?
No, it was not.
What was the date on that?
June 15th at 2:54 p.m.
Got nothing here.
Do you remember receiving it?
I don't work here anymore.
Sorry.
Oh, all right.
I know. Yeah, I
That's a
am technically
technical
just
one.
filling in as the nighttime clerk. I got a new job, and my last day was the 13th, so no, I didn't get it.
Okay.
Sorry, Tony.
No, it's fine. Naomi?
I got it.
Okay. All right, so there's verification that it's out there.
I believe you, I just, for some reason, I'm not finding it in my emails. You must have.
A village. Name.
Do you mind if he reads it?
No, I don't.
Okay. All right, again, this is from T. Michael Schober. All, I understand to the extent of a layperson the concerns, some of which I expressed earlier. I'm likely missing something, but will share my current thoughts. First, I believe that the issue is one of an engineering specialized practice area, environmental engineering. I believe it beyond the typical engineering practice areas. If the necessary expert is sought, Will or Naomi may have suggestions. I would have several names to suggest also. The village staff and I worked earlier with a gentleman who helped with the Cajun site, whose name escapes me. He was impressive, worked with Giles earlier, and a potential candidate. So I recognize a risk potentially, but not the full extent of the risk and consequences. Based upon my concerns and my limited engineering experience and not knowing the potential consequences, I would recommend against approval without additional and reliable information. But that's without the benefit of an expert who could much better quantify the potential village risks. We need that type of expert, and the applicant should be advised of that. The cost would, like those of other village staff consultants, be passed on to the applicant for reimbursement. Assuming the expert approves of activities to be conducted on the site, those operational activities conditions must be detailed in the CUP. Failure to follow the conditions set by a qualified expert exposes the operator and village to potential liability. Lastly, how would the conditions be monitored and enforced? Failure to police and enforce compliance with the engineer set conditions, again, potentially exposes the village to liability. That is a separate concern, but the CUP would require the reasonable cost of monitoring and inspections to be reimbursed by the operator. It all starts from our absolute need for an environmental engineer to be on board to address the issues from the perspective of their expertise. That's just like the KCM CUP situation, even if on a smaller scale, but importantly, on an already identified site that has contamination. Mike.
So evidently he doesn't recognize the DNR as an expert, correct?
That is
The
correct.
guy, Joe Martinez, that is an engineer, he doesn't recognize him as an expert, is what you're saying. Because he's already given basically his blessing, go ahead with this. And I would say if we keep tabling stuff long enough, what's the point?
I wouldn't say Mr. Martinez gave his blessing. He said it's your property, do what you want with it.
And I also think the email said that this sounds like an issue between the village and the applicant. The DNR has multiple sites like this that are active sites.
Correct.
They know of it. They have no issue with it. Again, we all know the DNR is not gonna come out and,
Yeah, they're not gonna give a blessing and open themselves up.
but I think that the multiple emails that they've
Please,
sent,
It's okay.
I think that the multiple emails that have been sent have been pretty open that they don't have a concern with it. Did you have a chance to talk to him directly?
I did not.
Okay.
Yeah, from what his email states, everything, as long as the topsoil doesn't go below where the landfill site used to be, as long as they don't impede that area, it looks, everything's fine. He's a hydrogeologist, he knows what he's talking
Is that a
about.
DNR person?
Yeah, he's the
I can-
DNR in the email,
I can read
Martinez.
the letter from Joe. Oh, is it?
Yeah, that,
Is the latest one in there? Cause there was two from him.
the one that's in here from February 22nd.
Yeah, there was one this last month that I had sent over to the, I think Larry last week.
Yeah.
I think it's in here.
This one's from June 15th.
Yep.
This is the old one.
I didn't see it in there. Anyways, a letter from Joe to Jamin reads, Jamin, based on your email and our phone conversations, my understanding is that there is a dispute between you and the village about what activities can be conducted on your property, including storage of equipment. This appears to be an issue between you and the village that does not involve the DNR remediation and redevelopment program. You as a responsible party and property owner need to maintain compliance with Wisconsin State Statute 292 and Wisconsin Administrative Code Chapters NR 700 and 799 as it pertains to the known contamination and environmental pollution that exists on the property. On March 24th, 2000, the DNR was notified that a discharge of hazardous substance had occurred at the property. Letters were sent on November 10th, 2005 and December 20th, 2019, notifying the responsible parties of their responsibility to investigate and remediate the contamination in accordance with state law. The environmental contamination case remains open, and Wisconsin Administrative Code Chapters NR 700 to 799 process must be followed. Many open environmental cases are related to properties that are occupied/not vacant. My understanding is that there are currently no continuing obligations placed on the property by the R&R program that would restrict the use of the property beyond the general requirements contained in Wisconsin Statutes 292 and Wisconsin Administrative Code Chapters NR 700 to 799. We recently submitted a materials management plan which, once approved, will likely require continuing obligations, including a requirement to maintain the cap covering the proposed burn. Any additional movement of material on the site would also be required to comply with requirements of Wisconsin Administrative Code Chapter NR 718 and may require materials management plans, if applicable. Use of the site can be coordinated with the site investigation/remediation activities and any required continuing obligations. All available documentation regarding the property and R&R program correspondence regarding the property is available in the online database located here. He puts a link in. The site can be found by searching for the facility ID number 268-384-270. Please feel free to contact me with any questions, and feel free to share my contact information with the village representatives if they would like to contact me as well.
Excuse me, when is this email coming over?
The 15th
Of
June.
June, could you please forward that out to the board members? In the prior letter, he said something like he's recommending a cap. Is there already a cap on that property of that dump? Or he's recommending putting one, would you be willing to do that?
In that email, he's recommending the cap on the proposed, material that we had to file for a, what do you call it? To keep the soil on site. They tested positive for heavy metals, so.
Is there a cap already there? I thought
They're supposed to be.
Yeah.
That's, from all the information that we've done and what the DNR had said, that it's been capped.
So is he saying in that he's recommending a cap, an additional cap on there so you don't?
No, it's to maintain what cap is already on the landfill, Jeff. But the problem lies in the fact that even in our discussions between the village, the DNR, and the landowner, the DNR admitted that they do not believe that there's a cap on the site. And that changes directives on the entire site. The site itself has been presumed to have a cap, but there is no record of it. The cap is normally placed on a site like that to keep the contents separated from rainwater, any type of interaction with surface, anything going on. And all the data that I've read through, thousands of pages of data, and all the holes that's been punched into that landfill, not a single one of them shows that there's a cap on that landfill. The DNR themselves have said that they do not believe a cap was ever placed on it. If so, then that changes the dynamics of doing any type of movement on top of the property. For years, there was movement on top of that property because everybody assumed there was a cap. Starting to look at the data that the DNR made available on public request, and then the following studies that happened, and especially right up into whenever we discovered, whenever they were building the road to gain access through to the condominium site, the business condos, that there was surface contamination. And then we started asking questions. Well, why is there surface contamination? Why is there no data showing that there's a cap? Why is there not a certified cap, something somewhere where somebody would say, I put a cap in it, this is how deep it is, this is the registry, this is where it was placed, this is this survey data. None of that exists, or at least so much as anybody's been able to find. The villages, both villages, us and Vernon, have dug for it. The attorneys have dug for it. The DNR's dug for it. I would assume that probably Extreme and Peterson's have dug for it, and there's nothing. So if there's no cap, that means that rainwater, any type of site activity is interacting directly with the landfill. The landfill is known to be contaminated, both with liquid and solids, hazardous materials, hazardous waste, uncontrolled.
So if the DNR has no problem though.
They don't have.
They're saying, if
Have
the
you read
DNR
it?
said it's been this way for this many years, and they assume there was a cap, now you're assuming there is no cap.
As
So-
well as, were you on the phone call with the DNR back in November?
I was not.
Okay, so the DNR at that point, and please correct me if I'm wrong, simply stated that they now believe that there is no cap on that
I
landfill.
don't ever remember them
Yeah,
saying that.
that's what they said. They said they can't find any indication that there was a cap.
So with the administrative codes that they've tossed out there, are you guys familiar with those? Is your
We
environmental
went through a little
consultant?
bit, yeah, I mean, as much as a layperson can do.
Sure. And Greg, I agree with that. The layperson is compared to material experts. And moving away from me as a material expert, that's where our attorney is going, is that he is recommending that the village acquire an environmental engineer, somebody that does this for a living, somebody that can interpret the rules and the site conditions and make sure that our liability as a village and protection of the local residents as well as everyone else on their tax dollars, as well as just their drinking water, their air quality and everything else is protected. That is what I interpret from Mr. Shover's thing.
Is this
The
not,
D-
okay.
the,
I'm
the,
sorry.
the DNR's letter or email back from Mr. Martinez states that he doesn't have a problem as long as you adhere to all the different codes and all the plans that have to be in place. And one of the biggest plans is a remedial action plan. And part of that administrative code talks about how any site activity, any changes to that site has to adhere to that remedial action plan, which has not been developed. The site's not been delineated, meaning that we haven't figured out how far the waste goes or the structure of the waste, the things of concern on there and how it's moving, let alone putting together a remedial action plan. I know the DNR stated back in November, they gave us basically written notice that we had to have that by the end of January. Nothing was produced, and the DNR has not come back on that to do an enforcement action to basically force that to happen. But this administrative code and what he is stating is, have at it, do what you want with the site, but you gotta adhere to all the different codes in the process, which puts you back in as the responsible party that has to have a remedial action plan to deal with the hazardous waste that's on that site. That's the way I interpret his letter, and that's how I interpret our attorney's response back. And I never had any action or interaction with any of the parties. I just observed the emails going back and forth.
But does this not open up a whole can of worms or whatever you want to call it with the attorney? He's an attorney, he's not a specialist on many, many things. So now, should he say, no, I don't recommend that to the village because I'm not an expert, get this done, whatever it may be. Why are we making this so difficult for everybody that wants to come into Big Bend? And there's a lot of people that want to come in and do their business in Big Bend. Why are we making this so difficult that we're known and we're not laughed at, but people turn away from coming to Big Bend because of the difficulty of getting anything accomplished through a small community? It's like you're expecting so much liability. If Schober doesn't know something about building codes, or if he doesn't know something, and you have to get an expert for every little thing, then he's gonna just say, I can't comment on that. I just say the village gotta get an expert in here because of the liability issue. That would happen with every little thing that we did. So yeah, he's not an expert on it, but he has also gotta look at what the DNR says. And it is our property, or it's extremely serious property, to do as they please with it. Now, we wouldn't even be going here because this really doesn't need a conditional use permit until it was brought to this point. This was at the planning stages or the staff level to get this approved from the beginning. That's what it originally was until we opened up this whole thing with contamination. I understand all that about the contamination. I'm not to the point that you do, of course, but I'm just wondering, where's it ever gonna end with the village with us trying to get something accomplished there? We're trying to make this an attractive place for companies to come instead of being made fun of the way we operate. I mean, look at the village now. It's just not right.
Well, I'm sorry that you feel that way. I'm sorry that you come with that chip on your shoulder.
I don't have a chip on my shoulder. Again, Tony, I have no chip on my shoulder. I want to see the village thrive and be something like it used to be a little bit at least.
So do I, but I also at the same time have to protect the citizens, the taxpayers, the water conditions, the quality of everything. We're talking about an uncontrolled hazardous waste.
And the Lake Park people. That's the only chip I have on my shoulder is again, you guys can stop me anytime you want, is the Lake Park people, i.e. you, are the ones that are against us because it's an eyesore. I mean, really, those guys they're not about the contamination, they're about ruining the look of their subdivision.
Let me jump in here. The only two people here that came to the public hearing aren't from Lake Park. And it's our job as a planning commission and our job as a village board to protect what's in their best interest.
I agree 100%. 100%.
I think.
I'm not, just knowing that we stirred some stuff up, putting that road in for the condos. I don't know what it was.
And that was so, I mean, when you listen to the DNR, it was so minimal that it was barely past what it was supposed to be. It was very minimal. It wasn't like it was crazy.
A minimal amount of cyanide still.
Yeah, it was low level KAHs, that's heavy metals in the ground. You can go dig into it's known in this area, correct? I mean, you get that type
I
of.
can't comment on that. All I can comment on is that you can't just put it anywhere. And the DNR has said you have to specially take care of that.
The long story short is the village was named as a responsible party, as was the village of Vernon and you guys on that 5-acre site. We have to protect our taxpayers and our own backsides from contaminating their water, their air, by disturbing what could potentially be an uncapped landfill.
Again, none of you have any idea, except Judith probably, what was done on that land.
You're right.
For many, many years. What did we do when we bought that? You've seen how we cleaned that thing up. I think we took out 300 tires. I mean, we took out everything. This site has been, and now when we're trying to make it nice and make an improvement, now it's all of a sudden it's a problem because of the way things are going with the village board.
Well, it was a problem when December 20th, 2019, when we got served notice and I was village president by the DNR naming us as a responsible party. We have to do what's in the best interest of protecting the village from a massive lawsuit.
What did you do about it? Nothing. All you're doing is saying, again, the village, they're a responsible party, Vernon's a responsible party. That means you're a responsible party. Do something about it. Just don't sit back on your hands and say, okay, we don't want to contribute. I mean, we got tens of thousands of dollars invested in stuff that we shouldn't have to do because we're not even the primary responsible party. That's what I'm trying to say is, you guys are just on your hands and we'll just keep tabling it.
I don't know if you saw the letter that I sent to the DNR. I'm pretty sure I copied Jamin in.
I've never seen anything.
It was sent back in January. I can resend it if I dig it up. We laid out our plan of action. We said we're not gonna repeat the efforts that you guys have invested into already. You have a qualified company on board that's done a lot of digging and research and boring on that property. He's got all the records, he's got all the data. Why would we repeat that? We want to expand on that.
Warren, you got the email that I sent to you. Did you share that through with Greg? About the funding? The funding, the sites for...
I don't know if
You responded back that you found it. So
and I think if this is the case with what's going on here, I mean, you guys' time is very valuable. And this is like our 5th time here for the exact same thing. And the result Isn't it, Tony? The end result is the same. The attorney is against us, so let's table it. So we shouldn't be wasting, your guys' valuable time, If the village doesn't wanna do nothing about it, we're not gonna get anywhere.
Well,
I think we just have to decide.
We take no action and dismiss the CUG then. I mean, that's-
I don't know what the answer is for you guys. I really don't.
Well, so now you need to take a step back from being part of Extreme Exteriors and be part of the Planning Commission.
And that's why I joined the planning commission, not because of extreme exteriors, not because of the property. I joined the planning commission, and I told Warren, I wanna see something good happen in the village. And I don't mean breaking all these rules, I mean, I wanna see us make life easier for people that wanna come in here and do stuff. And not so much red tape. If that's not gonna happen, I guess it's not gonna happen.
Certain amount of regulations that have to be followed, they have to be adhered to, and they have to be interpreted correctly for all responsible parties whenever you're dealing with a hazardous waste site. It's different than your standard village site.
I'm not just talking about, again, you said get away from that. I'm not talking about that in particular right now. All I'm talking about is a lot of things in the village that maybe could be done at a staff level. And Mary's super intelligent, and she knows what she's talking about. And what Mary says.
So you're going right back to the fact that it was brought up as a CUG and not handled on the staff level, correct? For Extreme Exteriors.
No.
What
Just a lot of things.
What other, if you wanna go down the road, what else? What other instances can you name for me?
Tony put me on a spot. I can't name the instances.
I believe that everything that's come in front of the planning commission since we've been here has been approved. I don't think we've denied anything.
You have approved it, that's good, but it takes a lot to do it. I mean, people coming to 4, 5, 6 meetings.
It usually
that could be
takes 1 or
handled
2
in-
meetings, except for larger sites like
Gentlemen.
Ripplebrook East.
Okay.
Sorry.
We're here to address the item on the agenda. Let's not get,
I heard in the conversation, you guys have had testing and boring done on that property. Has that been, typically when you have a location that got contamination, there's a remediation plan developed and the DNR has that remediation plan.
We haven't gotten to that point because it requires probably like another $50,000 to $100,000 worth of testing.
Okay.
So we thus far have spent, I think last time I checked was close to $75,000 since we've owned the site on testing. The way I'm looking at it is Big Ben is a responsible party, Vernon is a responsible party. Every time we've been sent a letter, we've had some sort of testing done afterwards. Big Ben and Vernon have been sent letters, they have done nothing. And that's why I'm getting at, you guys keep saying liability, liability, liability to be able to store some trailers on here for 6 months. Yet when it comes to you guys figuring out or helping get a remediation plan for this, be it put in some money or using some of your resources, then everything goes cold. That's the issue that I have with this, and that's why I'm pursuing it. I don't need to store stuff down there. Would I like to temporarily, so I can get things moved around? Yes, absolutely. But it's the point that it becomes an environmental issue every time we want to do something, and it's so, you guys are looking out for the greater good of the village and this, that, and the other thing. Well, if it was such a concern by you guys, you would have talked about this in the budget meeting, setting aside some money to work on this testing. Working with Vernon, working with myself. I've sent countless emails to Big Ben and Vernon saying, please include me in any discussion you guys have about this so we can work together because we're all responsible parties and nothing's done. But then when I want to do something, all of a sudden it's concern for the citizens and everything else. That's my issue. So right now I have a 5-acre piece of property in the middle of town that we cannot do anything with.
The last round of testing showed that there's 4 feet, 48 inches of contamination. Liquid contamination in landfill. It was never tested. I just went down and tested groundwater, but there is no liquid contamination in the landfill now. That was the last round of testing, I believe, in 2019.
That we had done on our own.
That you did, yes.
Well, I didn't hear what you had to say. Can you say that so I can hear it?
Oh, so the last round of testing, I believe it was in 2019, they had drilled a hole in the northwest corner of the landfill lot to take a groundwater sample. As they went down to groundwater, I think it was between 9 feet and 14 feet down, they found 48 inches, 4 feet of black sludge-like petroleum separated liquid that was floating on top of the groundwater. So they did not test it, they just know that it's there, and no idea where it came from, where it's headed, or anything else. But there is now not just known solid contamination, heavy metals, volatile organics, polyaromatic hydrocarbons, a whole lot of different bad stuff. They now have, we now know that there's liquid contamination in the landfill as well. Yeah. It is not lined, by the way. The landfill definitely has no liner to it, so things are free to move about inside the landfill. And with no cap on it, it's basically uncontrolled.
So if that testing was in the northwest corner, that's close to where you just started phase 2, isn't it?
Yep, correct.
Did you do testing in that phase 2 area prior to the concrete going down?
I'm only required to do it between buildings 10 and 11.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
So going back to my original question, one, are you willing to put some kind of cap on there, or can there be a cap put on there so we can make this piece of property usable?
That's the only thing that I want to do, but I'm not paying for it all.
That might be part of the remedial action plan, most likely.
Would capping take and provide something to where it could be used?
It's already been approved for self-storage units by the DNR and by the Village of Big Bend.
Oh, on the dump site?
Yeah,
So at that time, it was not recognized that there was no existing cap on the site.
it has to be remediated before we can do it, but, right,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And I know that, and that's why I want to get this done, so that I can move forward and develop this property. But again, I need help from the responsible parties, i.e. Big Bend and Vernon.
Even if it's just a cap, which I'm assuming it would be more than that, a cap's gonna be usually $500,000 put in.
Mhm.
Probably more. I don't know how much it would run, honestly.
You know, I don't know anything about this, I'm just gonna ask basic questions to see if we can meet some kind
It's
of.
expensive, it's not just simply dumping.
What is that,
stuff on
clay
top
or
of it.
something you cap with? or
Yeah,
what?
it's gotta be compacted, it's gotta be a certain quality, density.
Your density testing.
Yeah, it has to be engineered first. It's at least $500,000 to get something like that in.
I would assume we'd have to look at methane potential in that landfill, has that
So
been?
methane, soil vapor extraction, possibly groundwater treatments would be on top of that as well. I mean, it's all stuff that would have to be considered. You can't just cap and know that you have liquid contamination of an unknown substance down there. It's gotta be delineated out and it has to be dealt with. It doesn't mean you have to dig it up and take it away someplace else, albeit that's an option. But there's different systems that would have to go into play. That's why Mr. Schober, Attorney Schober, had said that we need an environmental engineer that is, and in that email, I sent a couple names of environmental attorneys, environmental engineers, firms that can help us with the funding. Mr. Peterson, I'm sorry that we didn't get that yet. I sent it through Warren just so you could look at it first, but there is federal funding, there is state funding available. We just need somebody that can write grants and be able to navigate that.
I think maybe Mr. Schober should be more concerned about the liability by not doing nothing, by the village not doing nothing, than the other way around. To me, that would be more important than some of this other stuff. He should be saying, oh my God, you guys gotta do something with it. what you're saying is true, by not doing nothing, by what we're gonna do is, really is, putting a couple trailers or doing something is not much. But if you, what you're saying is how it just can, it's not capped, so it can just move around, I would say this village got a big liability by not doing nothing at all. To me, so why is he more concerned about that? I mean, do you not agree a little bit?
I do.
Can we get this approved somehow so that they can park trailers on there or whatever and not allow the disturbance of the dirt or anything like that? I mean, parking the trailers on there, I don't think it's gonna make it cause any issues.
For that, I'm going back to what the attorney said, he's against any approval of the CUP.
And I'm just asking questions, Tony, just.
Yeah.
You know, anything.
I mean, it becomes a slippery slope. You allow one portion of the CUG like that to occur, and then it's a slippery slope to just kind of kick the can down the road, first of all, and for the villages not to do anything, for the responsible party not to do anything, and continue it onward. At the same time, there might be a way around it, but I haven't talked to the attorney. If that's his opinion, I can't go against that.
You know, I can understand the moving in the dirt, possible storing up contaminations and stuff like that. If we're parking trailers on it, maybe a machine or so on it.
So who then, I have to ask the question, if we do allow that, then how are we going to enforce that that's it? There's no other things going on, because there has been dirt moved in, there has been wooden debris, root balls and other stuff that's been moved into the site in the last couple of months while we've been debating this. I mean, it has. Things have appeared on the site. You guys have already moved things in. So I go back to how are we going to enforce this?
Well, I think that comes from the lady's question in the first place is, how's it gonna get enforced? Well, how do we enforce things?
It hasn't been enforced to this point, because like you pointed out, things have already been moved onto that site, and I do remember a past planning commission meeting where I heard Mary made mention that that site should have nothing but grass on it, because there is no permit or business plan to be on that site.
I remember that too. Just ask, I mean, we're,
You know,
We'll have to set up
oversight is
some
not
sort of-
occurring because all this stuff is there already. But now we're gonna let them do a little bit more, the oversight has already failed.
We've been using that site for 17 years since we've had it. Nobody's ever said a thing about it. There's been stuff on that site, there's been stuff moved on that site. There's been stuff stored on that site. We've only done everything and cleaned it up. It's only looked nicer since we've had it. The root balls and stuff, yes, I did bring stuff down there. Those were the root balls from the trees that we ripped out of there that we initially took up to the other site and didn't burn them or anything. They're in the way of my building, so I brought them back down.
I think what could happen, if there's some inclination to want to allow certain things to simply be set or parked there, but nothing else, I think what you could do is just establish sort of a photo baseline that would document exactly what the current conditions are. And if you want to say that the current starting conditions have to be nothing at all, then get the site to that condition. And then you can begin the temporary use that would include, you know, this many trailers to be parked only, no driveway established, nothing. If that's what I'm hearing, there might be an appetite for. But it certainly can be, a baseline of the site conditions can be established just through a simple set of photographs, you know, dated and memorialized in village records. And then you tell them, above and beyond nothing to begin with, what are you going to allow them to have there, and for how long, and how will it operate, if it operates at all, or is it just purely parked, placed storage.
And then I'm a little confused too, when I heard that this was already approved for storage units.
Mm-hmm.
That was quite some time ago.
Yeah, there's no approval in place.
216, 217,
Mm-hmm.
something like that, yeah. It was good, it was good for 2 years, I think, the permit.
Because, you know, this is really my introduction. I mean, I know the dumpster.
Right, at that time, many storage warehouses that they were looking at, seemed like a viable option there. And it was, you know, don't disturb the cap, it was surface grade, or at surface,
Slab on grade.
slabs.
Slab on grade, yeah.
Yep, slab on grade. Methane systems to keep any methane gas from building up inside the buildings, all pretty straightforward. But it was let expire, and then the RP notice happened, responsible party, and things started to come out from additional testing and requests to the DNR for documents, and they put a whole bunch of stuff up onto their RAP site, and you know, it's started showing that there's a lot more to the site than what was expected.
You know, I agree with both of your comments that, hey, we have to protect our citizens, we have to follow the laws, things like that, but I also would agree with Greg that we've got to make this place easier to work with while we're doing this, you know? So we gotta go down both paths.
So what would be your recommendation to make the site more easy to work with? the
No, just
process?
in general. So I guess I got totally off the, just this site, and I'm sorry, President. You know.
I think it's
This was
important.
a planning commission meeting anyway.
Yeah. I think it's important though, that we don't just gloss over what the attorney's telling us.
Right.
Quite honestly, you know, if he says, this can't be done without, if you're gonna do this without me, without my, oversight, then what's the point of having it? Quite honestly, I think that it's, what he said in his letter, that Tony read today, is, it puts us at odds with what really is what Jamin wants to do. And as much as I think that he can do it without disturbing things, as long as the attorney says, are you gonna really put yourself in that position? You're putting us all in that position.
But where's the attorney getting the information from?
It doesn't matter. The fact is, if he says, you know, that he thinks we should be hiring somebody to check that property out, and before you do anything, then that's what we should do. And if we don't wanna do that, then you can't do anything. And that's kind of what it means, I think.
But he also said, hire somebody and forward on the cost to the homeowner.
Right. Right. So, you know, I think, you know, quite honestly, going against what we hired the attorney to give us an opinion. His opinion is that we should not move ahead with this at this point from this baseline. We need to fix, we need to get the proper approval from somebody that's not in this room right now before we can move.
Based on your existing tests that you've had done, is there a possibility it could cost us from an engineering firm to see what further would need to be doing to study where that's at?
Yeah, I've sent over multiple estimates for the next round of testing to the village for the last year. No response.
I think this whole thing got blown way out of whack. I mean, it's not like we're gonna build something, we're parking a few trailers down there, we're doing a few things that have not changed over many, many years. It's not that big a deal to do a few small things. Maybe we should have just done it without even asking. Guess that's all, I just don't, it's like we're asking to, okay, can we build a brand new duplex or something on that property? No, no, we can't. Can we park a trailer there? No, why not?
I'm gonna need a motion out of somebody on the planning commission.
Well, what's our options? Dismiss, kick it down the road, or?
You can dismiss it, you can approve it, or you can table it. It's an approval, a denial, or a table. We've already had a public hearing on it, we don't need another, do we?
Unless the plan changes substantially from what it is now.
Well, Dennis? You have food factor. What do you do?
The concern I have with the no remediation plan is that truck traffic and trailers is that something that could disturb that. Is there an option to not include the trailer storage so there's no truck traffic in that area?
Well, again, if I can't get a truck in there, how can I bring anything in there? I can't mow it. I can't bring a tractor over it. I can't mow it. It's gonna kick up dust and move stuff around.
I was thinking more of the weight of the equipment.
I'm taking it off of a road that's, you know, full-blown road that's equivalent of what Edgewood is.
And you have tracking mats there right now off of that road?
No.
In my experience in the construction site industry is that, you know, it's fine when everything's dry, when things get wet, that traffic tends to.
Well, I mean, we got millings down. That was part of the original plan for the, you gotta remember, I'm coming in off of Peterson Way, which is the road that goes to Lake Park Storage. There's millings down there right now. It's actually gonna be asphalted in a couple of weeks.
So you've got that base road now
Mm.
on that property?
Yeah. And half of that property, the top coat of that is gravel and stuff anyway. I mean,
Yeah, I've been by there and seen what you did with the road going
right.
in. I guess that's my concern is if you go further to the east where there's nothing to support those vehicles, the running up and tracking.
Again, you're not familiar with it, but we've been doing this for the last 17 years, going in and out of there. It hasn't been an issue.
Yeah, I don't think it's the weight of the vehicle.
It's gravel, there's gravel, basically gravel
I can
pad
see
down
from the
there.
photo, you've got quite a area from the older photo that.
Mhm.
How long you been cutting grass over there?
Long time,
Right.
since we
So
owned
if
it.
there was any surface contaminants, you've been kicking them up in the air for 20 years already.
Right, exactly,
Not that that's right or wrong, I'm just saying,
right,
you know, just by cutting the grass, I know how much dust gets stirred up.
right. So then am I
A
gonna
truck's
get?
gonna stir up a whole lot less.
Right, right.
I drove in there today to just look and see where everything was proposed at. I had my paperwork with and everything. And I drove Silverado and went in. I did call Greg ahead of time to make sure it was okay. Stood there, looked around for a little bit, got back in the truck. I didn't pick up any dust when I drove out or anything. It's not like I peeled out, but I didn't kick up any extra dust. But it seems like a very legitimate area, given the underlying conditions that need to get taken care of too.
I'm really not trying to like take this over and eventually run my business out of there. I truly am not. The whole purpose of this was a quick approval to move the stuff off a Lake Park site, get it down there out of the way so we can continue construction. And when I find another site and able to just take some time and condense and get rid of and sell and move. It was just a temporary storage site so I could get that stuff done so we can move on. I'm not gonna wanna store stuff down there. I just built this huge development that all of these people spent all this money on. Do you guys really think that they're gonna wanna drive by busted up, rusted old pieces of equipment and this, that, and the other thing? I mean, I don't like the way it looks down there right now. But again, I can't just do it all at once. It takes time. And that's what the whole reason with this was just to have some time to move stuff off of one site to another so that I can move it around, get it out of there.
The remediation has to happen. That's a given. That has to happen. We'd like to happen tomorrow if possible, but we need the help of the municipalities to do it, that are the responsible parties. There's no way you can do it on your own. There's no way.
Get an engineer, it's gonna be a month, 2 months.
Well, like I said, I mean, as long as this is half of the stuff I've gotten rid of already, just because as long as this is drilled out. I mean, to get an engineer in here, then just kill the thing and be done with it and don't waste any more of my time. But then I'm also gonna say, I paid for a burning permit on this property that I can't use. I'm paying property taxes on a property that I can't use.
What's the biggest piece of equipment you have, the dozer? So that's not, you don't have that big one.
What's that?
The one you have is a big one.
D3, 10-foot blade. And again, it's on job sites 90% of the time. Comes off a job site, we'll go down there, get parked for a week, goes to the next job site. But again, being a steel track, I'm not gonna pull it on my asphalt parking lot at my industrial park site.
And that's what I was thinking, is that track, disturbance with that track during wet, muddy conditions.
Again, no different than mowing lawn down there.
I have to go by what the attorney says. I can't go past that. It is not a personal agenda. As I know that's been stated before, this is not a personal agenda of mine. This is going by what the attorney said. I'll move for dismissal of the request for conditional use.
By dismissal, do you mean denial?
Denial. However it needs to be stated.
I'll second it.
favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries.
Sounds good, thank you.
Item 5B quickly, I hope. Review discussion and possible action regarding Village of Big Bend Library Director Carla Lang's request about replacing the existing freestanding manually changeable letter sign located along the library's Milwaukee Avenue frontage at West 230 South 9175 Nevin Street with a full color electronic messaging sign. Property is zoned B1 downtown business district.
Okay, everybody should have a sheet like this here. So if you go through that, and just the background, Carla and myself and the committee.
Planning Commission.
I'm presenting it.
He's trying to help.
If you don't want to present, I'm going to go to the bathroom.
Okay.
Which one, present or back?
Whatever makes you happy, Jim.
Just say yes and I'll move on and shut up. Okay, all we're doing here is replacing the existing sign with another sign. We're using the same post, the same area. You have the dimensions of the sign there. There's a letter in your packet from the county saying, you know, we're far enough back from the setback. We had Miller Electric come out and check the electric and bring that up to date. We did not require a permit, we approved it. Mary has been talked with Carla, and it seemed like this was and you can talk to that too. It seems like it's a pretty straightforward thing to get a digital sign there. You can see in the picture, so you say the Village of Big Bend, and it's going to be a 3x6 digital sign, which pretty much all of the village departments use. This has probably been a long time coming. It's somewhere around the $33,000 range. We have a great opportunity. We have a person donating $25,000 towards this. And we're running it through the library. The Bridges Library System is willing to put forth another $1,000. And of course, we'll be going out to other parts of the village to ask for donations to help us cover this. If we can't, we have a library, so we'd like to get everybody chipped in a little bit. So, anything else you need here, Mary? Is it pretty straightforward for you?
Yeah, just from the sign code standpoint, it's 10 feet or less in height, which is the code standard for a freestanding sign in the I-1 district. It is 35 square feet in area, and they're allowed up to 50, so they're good on that. It's a changeable copy sign, electronic messaging sign, so a couple of questions come up. Is it dimmable?
Yes, it is dimmable automatically for night, and then of course it'll come up in the day. But we're really recommending that it be shut off at night, you know, after, you know, so it doesn't disturb anybody, like maybe after 8 o'clock or something like that.
So what the sign code says about illuminated signs, if they adjoin residential properties, and this one goes to the south, across the street, and then the other direction toward the river, those are residential uses, and we want to be mindful of that. Code says it can't be on later than 9 p.m. If it's an illuminated sign next to a residential district. The Planning Commission has the authority to waive and modify any of the provisions of the sign code. And so what you can do tonight is talk about, you know, waiving off that 9 o'clock shut off and establishing some other hour, or waiving a shut off time, an express shut off time completely, in favor of saying something like, if the sign lighting, it has to be dimmed after a certain hour, and if the sign lighting becomes a nuisance, that they'll come back for review and further discussion with the commission about the intensity of the lighting. The only other thing I would point out is that these new LED changeable copy signs can blink and scroll, and a lot can happen on them. You want to say in your terms of approval that it can't create a public nuisance, such as being so bright that it interferes with drivers on the road adjacent. It can't, simulate traffic signals, things of that sort. It's one freestanding sign. It'll be the only freestanding sign on that lot. It's using pre-existing poles. Setback is greater than 10 feet, which is the minimum required in the village code. But as far as I'm concerned, if the commission addresses a couple of those mostly illumination type details, I think the sign is entirely approvable to me.
We're more than willing to meet that, not just to take and have it dim down, but to meet that 10 o'clock shutting off. That's not a problem. We don't really need it on after those hours. And we're not gonna have a bunch of distracting stuff on there. We don't really like the background stuff. We want it to be used as more of a solid color with the print, but you see a lot of signs with a black background, maybe red print on it. It can print up to 4 different lines, and it can give any kind of message like planning such and such on this date, board, library program, Rumble by the River, Lions Club, whatever it might be. But maybe on the 4th of July or something, a wavy flag with Happy 4th. But we don't want all this other stuff on there to see with some of these other distracting signs. So we can meet these things very easily.
I think this is a slam dunk, no-brainer for the village. I think it's awesome for the village, I think it's awesome for the library. The little things that have to be addressed. Personally, I think this is one of those things that are, again, this can almost be handled on a staff level, couldn't it? I mean, except for the tiny little things I'm just.
This would have been handled at staff level if it had not been a changeable copy electronic message board. All the changeable copy electronic message boards go to planning commission. They're not a conditional use.
Yeah, I just think it's great. I think it's great for the village.
The last page shows that it's 100-step dimmer, so even if they wanted to, that line is saying they dim really dark at the night, I think you don't need it for visibility.
It's got a photo cell on it.
That 100-step photo cell basically has the light levels change. Get brighter in the day, the sign gets brighter, the light it gets darker at night, the sign gets darker. So even in storms where the light levels go down, these signs automatically adjust. Nobody has to change the light. They just have an automatic photo cell.
There's no need for it to be on.
It is something that if they ever choose to use it in that fashion, that this sign can be at 2 lumens, very low light level.
But that'll automatically be on there, isn't it?
Correct. It automatically does it.
Yeah.
And you could just turn the messaging off, and the sign would still be backlit, if that was the case.
So the funding that's coming in, will it still cover this? Because I know it's a little bit more expensive, I think, than what was presented last time.
About $6,000 gap.
Okay. Is that going to have to be covered by the village, or?
No, the library would totally cover this if we don't get any donations back.
The library board can solicit some donations from.
And we've approved it through the library board already. So like I said, it has to go through the library so we can get that Bridges library system extra $1,000.
Very cool.
And, we can use some of our budgeting money. We're hoping to get donations. If not, we can go to the LGIP, which was a donation account meant for different things like this. So there will be no cost to the village unless the village wants to chip it. Totally village,
So then the only other piece I think that we talked about last time was on the electrical going up to it.
Yeah.
Did we
Yeah, it's another.
Take a look at that.
In other words, already done that.
So, town
It's done
influence.
new look. If there is 220 out there and a new line has been run, it had to be done anyway because the box out there was shot, the wiring was shot. If there's a plug out there, it would be eliminated. And then there was a plug here on this wooden sign here that was also coming off that line that's been eliminated. And that was also shot. The lights for the flag were taken off of that. So at some point, yes, we'll probably have to come up with a light on there that's solar for the flag. So, and those aren't very expensive. So that might be a cost that would come through.
We're not interested in cost. Planning commission doesn't deal with money.
The question was asked. So. Thank you.
That'll come up at the board.
So we're looking to make a motion here, or?
To approve the electronic message change for
Yeah.
the sign as presented.
I will so move.
Any further discussion?
Is that subject to the various conditions that were recited with respect to if the lighting becomes a nuisance upon the surrounding properties?
It sounded to me like they were not hoping that they weren't gonna.
Well, you can make that. I mean, that's fine. We'll abide by that.
Yes.
I'd like to treat everyone the same.
Yeah.
Subject to what was it, Mary?
If it becomes a nuisance on the surrounding area, they can be called back in to the planning commission for review and discussion, possible changes.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Motion carries. I will entertain a motion to briefly adjourn the planning commission so we can get these couple items from the village board.
So moved.
Huh? Sorry.
I motion.
Any further, yes?
Does Mr. Netzel also have to go to the board?
Don't think so.
Okay, all right, just want to make sure.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, call this meeting of the village board to order. Start out with pledge of allegiance, please. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call. Shells. Trustee Long. Trustee Lewandowski. Trustee Montel. President Lysick here. Trustee Goodman is in New Washington. And Trustee Khan absent. Item 2, public comments. Any public comments? We're not going to do any department reports at this time. Consideration and approval of minutes. What?
Is this new specs? Is that on our
On the board agenda? Was.
Doesn't that need to go through from them first?
Yeah.
I believe everything was handled today.
Yeah, but
Okay.
I still would like to make a few comments in relationship to
Is
it.
there anything that we need to wait for planning commission to address in the board meeting?
There's nothing to address either
Okay.
way on the village's end. I think
It's
Mr.
okay.
Stiza wants to speak some piece and we're
Yep.
gonna give him some time to do so.
Absolutely.
We already approved everything.
Okay.
Is planning commission done then?
No.
Oh, okay,
We're
it scared me again.
We're gonna reconvene in about.
Like I'm not doing this again.
Sorry.
Go build your kit.
What else can you do on Thursday night?
Consideration and approval of minutes.
Make a motion to skip reading.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted for the June 2nd, 2022 reporting.
So you're seconding it? I
Or,
see. Yeah, got it. Warren already said that.
you just said it? Oh, I'll second it then.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 5, approval of bills, discussion and consideration and approval of bills in the amount of $141,074.38.
Can you say that one more time?
141,074.38.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion? I have one question on the bills. Florida Marshal Brunt?
Yes, sir.
There was a bill in there for a can of gas from Vica.
Music.
I'm just curious what it was.
I don't know if you guys know or not, but you can get gas like from Fickle or any other places like this, which is for small engines only. We have a small engine, 1181. We put that gas in that engine.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And also the chainsaws and also all the other little engines we have.
Pure gas.
Pure gas. We don't find it everywhere.
I knew, I kind of thought I knew what it was, but I just wanted to ask you. Thanks.
Can ask me anytime. Anything you want.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 5, status of the planner.
I didn't know that was on the agenda. I'll have it to you by next week.
Thank you.
Do you know that that goes back to March of 21?
Yeah.
And not to pick on you, Mary, but it becomes very difficult to bill people what you bill when it gets to be past this time period.
Understood.
You know, so that's why we get that concern. We're more than happy to pay our bills, you know, but we don't, we've ran into that before where people they get billed much later after everything is all said and done, they're saying, wait a minute. So please.
You'll have it next week.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mary. Item 7, new business, consideration and approval of following operators license applications. 1, Jerome Brooks, Lynn Barnacle. Public safety, any comments, or?
They were on our last meeting.
We have not met since our last meeting, so I do not know when these approvals can be done.
I was so chief was that they were not good.
And I know B is good.
Can we approve
Conditionally on,
conditionally on
Yeah.
public safety needs on
July 5th.
July 5th? And we'll
no,
ask Chief Bates.
or on Chief's check, if he's done it prior.
Okay.
Because he's gotta be done by the end of the month.
Okay, so let's do that, then I'll make a motion to conditionally approve the operator's license for Lynn Barnacle based on confirmation of approval.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 7B, discussion, consideration, and possible approval for the following Class B combination beer and liquor on-premise license applicants. Zaner's LLC, agent Teresa Zanin, South 76, West 32278 Hawthorne Circle, McGuanago, doing business at Zaner's Club Shamrock, West 230 South 8745 Clark Street.
I will make a motion for the same conditional approval.
This one was approved, I believe, by Public Safety back in April.
Was it?
Yes.
Yeah.
All the paperwork.
The application got lost
They didn't make it to the
Okay.
agenda.
on our end.
So it is been approved by public safety?
Yeah, and the chief.
I was gonna say, I thought.
Yeah, we've never made it to the board.
That was the
So-
last meeting we did. I got the notes from Michelle.
I'll make the motion.
For the motion for the.
I'll second it. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 7C is a scratch now because that didn't come up from planning.
Before we move on, Warren,
Yes.
is the village able to refund Mr. Peterson his burning permit fee since he will no longer be able to use that?
For that property?
On that
Yes,
property.
I'm sure we can.
I think that would be the appropriate thing to do at this point since the use has been denied. that you should not have to be out $200, or $100, I'm sorry, $100, so if you
Let me reread the topic then. Discussion, consideration, and possible approval of conditional use grant request for extreme exteriors, Jamin Peterson, South 86 West 22900 Peterson Way, just east and adjacent to South 86 West 22880 Edgewood Avenue. Public hearing will be held at 6 p.m. Thursday, June 23rd, with action being taken by the Planning Commission immediately after the public hearing. Now I would take. This was denied by the public planning commission.
So the discussion I'd like to have is, I'd like to make, based on everybody's feelings on this, make a motion to refund Mr. Peterson's fee for the green permit, since that will not be able to be used on that property.
Before we go to what we have public comment, or not public, but group comments, right?
That's what I always say.
You mind if I talk now?
You have the floor.
Okay. Has the permit ever been used? Has he already burned on the property this year?
Not that I'm aware of.
He has not burned on that property since we gave him that permit. He had burned on that property prior to the original permit from before.
Okay. I mean, for refunding if it hasn't been used, but if it's been used, then, that's a whole different ballgame.
Inspector Brock, you would be getting phone calls, have they burned over there?
I would be getting phone calls. I have gotten phone calls, but that was from the permit.
So this year, he's not reached out to you and said that he's gonna burn, that he has it burned on there?
No.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 7D, review, discussion, and possible action for modification to section 13, insurance of the development agreement for proposed Ripplebrook East subdivision. The applicant is the property owner / prospective developer, Steve Spiza. The prospective development is located south off Henneberry Avenue, immediately east and south of South 93 West 22485 Henneberry Avenue. This was on the agenda for us to do some action, but all of the insurance papers came through to our attorneys pleasing, and we don't need to take any action now, but Mr. Spiza would like to address.
Yeah, I guess I'd like it to be noted that you should direct the village attorney to approve the form on the developer's agreement, because now we finally come to the finish line. And also, I'd like it to be noted that in the developer's agreement, it states that the developer will take it and record the developer's agreement at Waukesha County, not the village. Unless you want to do it, that's fine. And bill me the $30, that's fine too.
Pardon? Yeah, normally we do.
It says in the developer's agreement, the developer will, on page,
I'm not doubting
page
you.
9, section 33, so.
And what was the other thing on the agreement?
Well, that the village attorney has to approve the form. And we've been waiting for a signature to approve the form, is my understanding.
I will talk to Mike tomorrow morning.
And I think she has the one signed by you and me already.
Steve, do we get a copy of that once it's recorded?
Of course. I mean, it gets like downloaded to me and I can just download it right back to you. Okay.
Thank you. Anything else?
Other than, I just want to make sure that you do have those, that I signed it and that Lori signed it. Okay.
Double check before I leave.
Was that the one you gave to the attorney last month?
Well, he wasn't here last time, that's why.
Kevin? Was it?
Yeah, Kevin was here.
Kevin took it for him to sign.
Oh, he did?
Yes.
Okay. Well, then you should follow up with Kevin then. Or I can go pick it up.
Pardon?
And also, as as a status report for the planning commission, I think we have, that, they're ready to roll the equipment in next week and start.
Finally.
I was just gonna say that.
I hope the
They
weather,
were gonna roll it in this week, but I asked them to just hold on, so.
hope the weather cooperates
Right.
for you.
So we have the letter of credit.
Yeah, we had it.
Thanks.
I'll make the motion to approve that with the items that were mentioned.
There's nothing to approve.
No, I'm just,
I,
was-
he's just
We're
communicating.
making a note of that.
I'm just, yeah, I wanted to
I have
have
a
it
few
be
items
kind
I
of
have
in the
to take
record
care of
that
in the morning.
it's all done.
So, no,
No, there's no motion. Oh, we're good. Thanks, Steve.
Right. How much is that electronic sign for the library?
About 33, well, 34,000.
Okay.
We're covered, we have everything covered up to 26 right now.
How big is it?
We will accept donations.
Is it like a?
Jeff, if you hang on a second, I'll read the agenda item, and you can go on. Item 7E, review, discussion, and action of.
3 by 6.
And action of the Village of Big Bend Library Director Carla Lang's request about replacing their existing freestanding manually changeable letter sign located along the library's Milwaukee Avenue frontage at West 230 South 9175 Evans Street with a full-color electronic messaging sign. The property is Zone B1 Downtown Business District. From Planning Commission earlier as a recommended approval with the stipulation that if there is any complaints from light nuisance from the neighbors, they will come back and. Any questions? I think everybody was here for the full presentation before.
I mean, I can.
Let's just cut to the chase.
Thank you.
I don't want to sit through another presentation, no offense. Does anybody have any questions?
I'll make the motion to approve if it's proper.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? We'll see what it calls. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 8, go into closed session if needed. We will not be going into closed session. I guess I can just say the one clerk applicant that we had that we interviewed, the background check from the police department, $1,000. And it was recommended by the police chief that, you know, we are interested to hire this lady. So,
Probably tell my person that I don't care enough.
oh, yeah, Elena quit.
That's right.
Those are the way. So,
Just filling in for now.
nothing else here, I would entertain a motion to adjourn the board.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Village board is now adjourned. Where is my-
I didn't do it.
All right, we'll go back to the planning commission, and I will call this back to order. Thank you, village board members, for entertaining us for an hour and a half.
You guys can still hang out if you want to.
See you later.
Yeah.
Are we having another meeting the beginning of July, or is this
Yeah.
our July meeting?
No, July 7th, we'll have.
Okay, we're just double checking.
Yeah, thank you.
I got it rescheduled that work, so I just want to make sure.
I'm sorry, I missed that discussion. Is there?
July 7th is a regular meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right.
Yeah, you betcha.
If we pick up the agenda, and I'm going to skip ahead there. Yeah, I'm gonna go to 7A, new business. Review, discussion, and possible approval to place a 960 square foot detached accessory storage structure resulting in cumulative detached accessory storage space on this site of 1,080 square feet. or up to 800 square feet is the code specified maximum unless otherwise approved by the planning commission. The applicant slash property owner is Matt Neitzel. This 1.6224 acre, 71,049 square feet property is located at West 237 South 8131 Sunset View Court. It is zoned R2 residential.
Very straightforward. You've seen a lot of these. This individual has a lot that's greater than an acre in size. So the code says he's entitled to up to 2% of the square footage of his lot, even accessory storage structures, up to 2 total. That, whenever it's over 800 square feet total, it has to come to the planning commission, even though the 2% number is in the code. In this case, he's allowed up to 1420 square feet, together with a small existing shed that he has on the site already. What he's going to put in is 1080, so he's well within that 2% number. In all other respects, the building abides by the code with respect to the building matching or coordinating with the existing building materials on the house. And that's all detailed in his plans where he's called out the color information and the materials information on the plan sheets. It will not be closer to the street than the principal residence on the site. It will not be taller than the principal residence on the site, and it will not exceed 18 feet in height. It does meet the 20-foot setback from the side and the rear lot lines. So with all of that said, I don't have any objections to raise with respect to this request. I have a handful of conditions that I was recommending you would consider attaching if you're inclined toward an approval. It would include that the applicant would comply fully with all the representations of the application and the supplemental materials given. Secondly, that he secure any building permits, electric permits, anything of that sort prior to starting work toward setting that shed on this site or constructing it on the site. Third, that the applicant enter into a deed restriction with the village before start of construction on this site, a deed restriction that says this larger accessory building cannot be used for any business or commercial purposes. Number 4, that landscape plantings be added in the yard area to screen the street or the neighbor's views as follows. And I'm in the habit of leaving that blank for the commission to add their discretionary thoughts here about whether there should be any landscape plantings installed around this building to screen any of the neighbors. It's a pretty wide open area. Back in there, you can see where the shed is going to be located approximately on that air photo where I've put a yellow dot in place. So I'll leave that up to the commission to discuss and consider. Condition 5, that if there's going to be any exterior lighting on the new structure, it will be limited to low intensity, decorative type, typical residential lighting that won't result in glare or excessive light nuisance impacts on the surrounding area. And finally, condition number 6, the applicant would consult with and abide by any requirements of Waukesha County as to the proximity of the new shed to his septic and well. I believe they're on opposite sides of the lot entirely.
The well is near there,
Okay.
but I had all those setbacks and everything from Vince. He gave me all the numbers I needed
Gotcha.
when this all got laid out.
Gotcha. So I'll turn it over to the commission at that point.
Do you have plantings already to the east?
Yeah, there are 4 evergreen trees there already.
That's all, I was just gonna look up on Google Maps, but
I mean, I think this site is nice. I mean, this is a nice looking garage. I don't think it's gonna be an eyesore for anyone. And I don't see how we need any extra landscaping done around this thing.
I'll probably put some in anyways, just to make it look nice.
Exactly.
It's my backyard. It's like
Sure they don't want to stick it over on the other corner near the cell tower? It's
Which cell tower? The one that we may be getting or the one that's there already?
Well, that's true. I will give you that. Are you looking to run electrical and so forth out too?
Yeah, actually, my contractor already put in for all the building permits, electrical permit. They were confused on the process. They thought I went through planning already. So there was some confusion with them. So, yeah, Jason already has all the permits. He was just waiting for this and the deed restriction.
Based on the group on that, I don't know if we need to have item 4.
I'll make the motion to approve the construction of the detached accessory storage structure with the planner's comments on here, other than landscape plantings. I don't think they're really needed. I think he's going to, he wants to do a good job sending it back there.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you for your patience.
Thank you. Is anybody in the office tomorrow for a deed restriction?
Laura will be here till noon.
You will?
Laura will be here.
Hello? Yeah, you quit.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Item 7B is done. Let's roll back to consideration and approval of the minutes. If I can find them.
I'll make the motion.
To add that.
There it is.
Okay. I did the board.
I'll make a motion to dispense with reading on that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I'm sorry, who seconded that?
I did.
Thank you.
She got all the keys.
Finally got it figured out with a train into one.
Yep, sorry.
Oh my goodness. I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
I'll second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Alright. Making sure we got everything here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Planners report.
I don't have any updates for you.
This is gonna be fun. Minutes here, I'll be.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks, Warren.
Sorry. Gotta make it challenging. Fire inspectors report.
Fire inspections are still going on, re-inspections and also. And Lake Park, I'm keeping a tight eye on Lake Park. And what I'm doing with that, warrant over and above what you are required to get, is that I will do an inspection prior to make sure that building or the rental property is properly set up. And then maybe a week or two after they move in, I'm gonna go check them again.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let them know you care.
Pardon me?
Let them know you care. That's all it is.
I'm your new best friend.
You do the best, man.
Anything from Jason or Vince? No?
Oh, hey, wait, one more thing,
Yes,
before I
sir.
forget, I know you guys do this or not, but the blood drive is coming up, tomorrow. From 10:30 to 5:30?
Lions?
Yeah.
Lions?
And that's sponsored by the Big Bend Fire Department and the Big Bend Lions Club.
What time? What was the times?
From 10:30 to 5:30, last I heard.
Yeah, they just have it listed as an all-day event.
Yeah, it's an all-day event, is probably what they said.
You should put it on the new sign.
Put it on the new sign, here, I can do that.
Next one.
I'm sorry about the interruption.
No problem. Thank you for the update and public service announcement.
Well, they got to look, all you guys got donate blood. I mean,
Right.
They need it. They need it bad, believe it or not.
Did yesterday.
Did you?
I did.
Well, good. At least you did something.
Yeah.
Engineers report.
We have a paving date for Douglas Court of July 18th. So,
Nice.
yeah, so that's coming up. I did talk to Mr. Khan about it and let him know of a couple items that we didn't have the as-bills yet, so he was gonna contact his engineer, and then I'm gonna, next week follow up with a written kind of punch list of what we're looking for on this
She's got some
Finishing
shouldering
up.
and ditches, right?
shouldering,
Some concern on
ditches.
some of the shoulders.
I'm sorry?
There was some concern on the shoulders.
Yeah, yeah.
And I did see an email regarding the protecting the hardscape surfaces.
Yeah, there was some
Will
questions.
they
Yeah.
do the work? What-
I'm gonna reply to that email too. That came in this week. Yeah. The Blasix. I've talked to them before. So. Yeah. So that's good that we have a date on that. Ripplebrook, nothing has started yet, as you heard. ATI will be doing inspections on public infrastructure and erosion control when that gets started. We had our pre-con, so as soon as all the paperwork is signed, they should be good to go. The village, on behalf of the village, have put together and submitted on June 3rd a bipartisan infrastructure legislation grant application for the road work that needs to be done on Big Bend Drive, south of Skyline, towards Millbrook. I cannot tell you what the amount is, but it's an 80-20% match. And the estimate included pulverizing, reconstructing the road, and three culvert. There's a triple culvert at Millbrook underneath that included replacement of the culverts. So we hope to hear the decision on, or awards will be sent out end of July, I'm hearing. But we got confirmation that the application was received. Lake Park storage condos, they did paving on phase 1. Essentially the parking area, the private parking paving area. No paving of the private road yet, and when paving of the private road, that will require oversight from Public Works, and Kapoor will be on that one. As far as I know, I talked to Will today. He had just some punch list items for erosion control at Lake Park storage condos. Some of his items in his last inspection report have already been addressed. So he's been out there. And
Sherry Avenue?
oh, I don't have any.
No. I believe that's getting paved around the 4th of July,
Oh, good to know.
between Vernon and us. Mostly Vernon, but I know letters went out to residents a couple of months ago already, so it may have been forgotten.
Yeah, I'll check in with Eric on that. They haven't, their engineer oversight, their
Yeah,
engineer.
yeah, we're all kind of hands-off and just
Yeah.
paying for our small little
Based on the
part.
municipal agreement,
Right.
yeah. And then there is a grant, we did get grant monies for that, but we'll
Right.
have to resubmit for
50-50.
reimbursement. Yeah, so, good,
Did we,
glad to hear that.
did we wind up on Sherry, did we wind up providing any equipment or labor for the shoulder work?
Mhm. Any correspondence? Commissioner Bennett, please.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? We are, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Now we are adjourned. Thank you.
There's so much difference on this side of the table. I know. I've been over there for so long, and
I don't like your point.
The fact is, you know, that
Enjoy your
there was so
weekend
much
coming up. One
footsie
more
and
day.
stuff going on out there.
I've been enjoying
And our
the lake,
last
I've been
day,
working down by the lake every
Well,
day.
if they don't hire somebody, I'll be here for the next one.
That's last
Don't get too
Tuesday,
excited.
Yeah.
Monday before, that was really
What
bad.
is the next one?
When the water 68, came up the top of the hill.
Fourth Thursday in July.
That's how much difference there was between the cold water and the upper part of it.
Oh my God.
That's just wild.
28.
And then the south wind came and then killed everything.
Have a good night.
You too, girl. Take care.
Warren Kelly, you're gonna.
You'll leave Michelle Park on Boston Road.
There's absolutely no way we're gonna hire that.
Good night, Mary. Thank you.
One whatsoever.
Is there good? Where,
Oh,
where are you
Tony.
working now?
Well,
I
it's
work
just-
for a company called CSI. It's out of my spare bedroom. It's fantastic.
Oh, good. That's gonna be on
I don't
TV.
have to drive.
I know,
I
I've heard-
do have
Sounds
to
familiar.
go to Minnesota.
Okay.
once a year.